You know, one of the best feelings in chess is when you check your game in the game review and it gives you a playing strength of a much higher rating than what you actually are. I mean, I'm only 1800. It gave me a playing strength for this game of 2000. I mean, come on, chess.com, stop it. Let me know in the comments what the highest rating you've gotten on the game review was. I'm curious. All right, let's jump into the game, shall we? We start this game off with an Alpine Sicilian, e4, c5, and c3. I go ahead and play d4 here, we trade in the center, and now I've just got a very pretty center. I develop my knights to their natural squares, c3 and f3. I've got the entire center here, very nice, and black is going to develop his pieces in a way to try and attack my center from a distance, right? So we have knight f6, bishop d3, okay, castles, castles, and b6. b6 is a mistake. It actually loses an exchange, believe it or not. I didn't see this, but after e5, black just loses the exchange because this diagonal opens up and there's no way to defend the rook. If you trade in the center, okay, I take, and your knight is under attack, so you have to move the knight. Whether you move it to d7 or back to e8, it doesn't matter. And bishop e4, and the rook is trapped. There's no way to defend the rook. The knight can come out to c6, okay, I take. The bishop b7 I take, right? You would just lose some pieces there. So you actually have to just play like knight c7 and accept the fact that you lose the rook. It's crazy. And even if you don't trade in the center, if you just go back right away, well then you just play this all the same. And if you go back to e8, doesn't matter. Just bishop e4. Yeah, knight c7, you just take the rook. It's crazy. But I did not see that, unfortunately. Instead, I just play bishop e3. You know, just a developing move, you know, solidifying my center. And my pieces are just like the ideal center. When you first learn to play opening chess principles, this is the center that they tell you to play, right? You bring your knights out to f3 and c3, your bishops out, the center. Okay, I go ahead and play queen d2, lining up some, you know, dark squared infiltration here, try and trade off my opponent's fianchettoed bishop. And that is why black plays knight g4, trying to get my dark squared bishop. And I'm like, yeah, what? Okay, you can have it. I don't care. I'm going to play rook a c1 and get to the c file. You take my bishop. I should have taken with the queen here to preserve my pawn structure, but I took with the pawn. I did this to solidify my center. Now I've got the entire center here. My opponent's going to have to chip away at it from a distance here, like this. And I figured I have the open f file. Maybe I can make something out of that, and you know, we'll see what happens as the game goes on. My opponent plays e6, and I play knight b5. Knight b5 is not a great move. The idea behind it is truly just to try and get into c7. It was kind of hope chess, like maybe he won't see that his rook is trapped, but yeah, that's not a great way to play. My opponent plays a6, and now if I play knight c7, the rook just moves, and now my knight is kind of stuck, right? It might be getting trapped very soon. So I just go back to c3, and, you know, at least I've created some weaknesses, I could argue, right? b6, a6, although a couple moves later, my opponent just plays b5, takes some more space here, and now I'm just kind of looking a little silly for jumping in and just going back. But actually, my opponent does a very similar thing here after I play knight e2, trying to get around to f4, possibly, and my opponent plays knight a5, and then goes back to c6. So we both do some little knight maneuvers back and forth here. It's quite silly. I went ahead and played rook c3. That was also another idea behind moving the knight back to e2. Yes, trying to get maybe to f4, but also to open up the c3 square so I could double my rooks. Because now I've got very nice pressure going down the c file. So my opponent brings the rook to the c file as well, contesting there. And knight f4, just getting more active with my knights, and maybe trying to jump in here, get something going on the king side. My opponent plays h6, okay, and queen c2. Got an Alekhine's gun here, or Alekhine's gun. I don't know, however you want to pronounce his name. The queen and the rooks teamed up on an open file, yeah? And we have b4. I go ahead and take it, and the knight takes. This makes me lose my light squared bishop here because I'm kind of forked, right? But I'm okay with that. Because honestly, this entire game, ever since I took back in the center, or actually, no, just since the very beginning of the game, this light squared bishop has been staring at the e4 pawn and has, like, nothing else going on, right? The entire game just staring at this e4 pawn and is not able to do anything. So I wasn't actually that mad when I lost the bishop. So let's see, if we go back here, I take the rook first and then move my queen out of the way. He takes. The downside of this is that my opponent does have the bishop pair, which is very sad for me, because I've got 2 knights, and the position looks like it's going to be pretty open moving forward, unless it, you know, closes off, then my knights might be happy, but, you know, it's kind of weird. The knights stacked on top of each other like this. They're sharing a bunk bed right now. So we have g5, which, okay, I mean, it attacks my knight, but I just go to h5. And now I can always drop back this way and maybe try and get something, you know, wrap around. You know, the knights are going to try and hop around the board. They're going to do their best. And g4, my opponent's really getting aggressive here on the king side, thinking he's got the bishop pair and he's going to want to start some attack, you know, get the queen in. Maybe the king is going to slide over and the rook is coming to the g file. And maybe the f pawn is marching forward as well. And here I make a mistake. I take the bishop. I take the bishop first, which is a mistake because after g takes f3, my knight is still hanging. So I have to move it back, and now my opponent can either take here or bring the queen, threaten checkmate, and make me drop back and then take, or maybe this pawn is also marching forward, and this is just not pleasant because my king is just wide open here, and there's going to be some unpleasant stuff going on. So what I should have done is just move my knight back first. But hey, my opponent took the knight back, so we're not going to complain too much, because now I get to go back, and my king is still fairly safe, right? The pawn has not made it through with taking and taking, right? Queen g5 anyway, but this isn't that scary. I just go knight c4, and I'm hitting d6, so my opponent plays d5. Now, I don't really want to take here, just... You know, I mean, it's fine. I guess actually this would be okay, but it opens up the light squared bishop, and I didn't really want to do this, but, you know, you get knight e5, and I've got the backwards pawn. I don't know. So instead, I jump my knight into d6 right away. The idea behind this was to hit the bishop, right? I want to take the bishop and then take the pawn on a6, and if the bishop moves to d7, well, then I can just... Oh, I can't do this because of queen takes c3 check and you lose the rook. But, you know, ignore me. But that was the general idea, right? So we have knight d6 and my opponent takes in the center. I take back. And now my pawns are actually looking fairly decent in the center here. They were kind of locked and awkward before, but, I mean, hey, now in the future they might be marching forward and try and get a passed pawn in the center. Not complaining about that. There's a little, like, fruit fly buzzing around here. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. It's kind of fun. I also have ants in my apartment. I have ants that have been infiltrating the past week here. And I got these little ant traps, right? But they didn't seem to be working. So I had to get, like, the actual, like, liquid in the tube that you pour on, like, cardboard. And that's working. They're all munching on that. And they're going to take that poison back to their home and spread it amongst everybody. You don't need to know this. But I think it's, I don't know. You know. Ants, right? Anyway, we have rook c5. I actually kind of liked this move. It's a very interesting move, activating the rook on the 5th rank, hitting the queen, and just controlling all of these squares on the 5th rank. Very open here and very flexible. It's defended by the pawn. I thought the rook was good on c5. Queen goes back to g3, and I do accept the queen trade because I figured, okay, rook a5, and I get some activity, forcing my opponent to either play passively and defend the pawn like this, or, you know, rook b8, and we would trade like this. And even though my opponent has the bishop, all the pawns are kind of on one side of the board. So this is likely going to end in a draw, according to the computer, but give two 1800s this position, and anything could happen, right? But I figured I was okay here. Instead, though, my opponent plays bishop b5, which just gives up a pawn. And now, I'm in the driver's seat because I'm up a pawn. So I go ahead and get my rook behind the pawn. Yeah, like this. I bring the rook behind my pawn and start pushing, right? Now my opponent has to stay keeping an eye on my b pawn while my rook is going to be pretty flexible behind it, and I'm just going to push, and try and walk my king up here and secure the promotion square. And we see that happening. We have king f5, and we're both bringing our kings. He's trying to lock me in here, but my opponent doesn't really know what to do and just starts pushing his pawns. He just starts pushing, but this isn't great. He's trying to trade everything off, but here's the thing. It's not going to work because you got a 2-on-2, and your king's not getting in to take my pawns, right? Because my rook patrols the 3rd rank, so you're never getting in this way. And, okay, you can push, but I'm going to use this time to bring my king, and he's just wasting time pushing over here. It doesn't do anything because I just take, and you're never getting to my pawn on g2 because my rook just controls this. And now I just walk my king up, kick your rook out, promote, and now I'm just up a queen. And this is just very simple. I give a check, and here I had mate in 2. I didn't do this the cleanest way. I should just take the rook with my king, of course, and now the king is locked on the f-file, and no matter where he goes, it's mate. If he goes here, then this is mate, and if he goes up, then this is also mate. But instead, I give a check, and then another check, and then take the rook, and another check, and then I set up ladder mate this way. This is the only move, and this would have been mate, so my opponent resigned here. But yeah, that was a pretty good game. Now that you've seen the game, let me know what you think. Did the game review give me an accurate playing strength for that one? I'm not quite sure if it was over 2,000, but I mean, I'll take it, right? Hey, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Make sure you give it a like and subscribe. I am trying to grow this small channel, so any bit of support like that helps tremendously. And also, if you want to see me play a blitz game in real time, not post-game analysis, then make sure you check out this video. It's a Carl Khan 5-minute blitz game. It was a lot of fun. All right, have a good one, guys.